Which is better, intrinsic rewards or extrinsic rewards? In practicing the sword as a martial art, we focus almost exclusively on intrinsic rewards. In fencing as a sport, they focus almost exclusively on extrinsic rewards. But you can use both effectively if you're very, very careful. Our premise is that all people have an innate need to believe that they are competent and self-determining in dealing with the world as they believe it exists. We get affirmation of our competence and autonomy in the feedback we get back from the world. You know, when you run up a hill or swim across a lake, or when your horse sees you across the pasture and immediately comes to you, or when your dog welcomes you home with his tail wagging, or your cat curls up on your lap and purrs so you can't get any work done. That all affirms to us something good that we want to believe about ourselves. We tend to engage in those activities which bring us some benefit or reward that affirms our competence. That reward may come from inside ourselves or outside ourselves, internal or external, intrinsic or extrinsic. Extrinsic rewards may be intangible like fame or tangible like fortune. Applause and adulation, money and medals, trinkets, titles, trophies. These are all extrinsic rewards that confirm what we want to believe about ourselves. The advantage of extrinsic rewards is that they're objective and easily measurable. Intrinsic rewards include feelings of wholeness and unity, fulfillment, perfection, rightness, aliveness, richness and beauty, simplicity and grace, truth and joy. The great disadvantage of intrinsic rewards is that they're subjective and not easily measured. We say that you're extrinsically motivated when you engage in an activity to obtain extrinsic rewards for fame and fortune. And you're intrinsically motivated when you engage in an activity for its intrinsic rewards, that is, for its own inherent beauty and satisfaction and joy. Now, there's nothing inherently evil about extrinsic rewards. It all depends on how you use them. Let's suppose you're sailing on this leaky old tub, see, and you're out a whole bunch of miles out in the Atlantic Ocean and you're heading for home. But you're tiptoeing through a fog so thick that you have to put a mate out on the forecastle with a machete to hack your way through. And as usual, your radar's on the fritz, and all you've got to work with is a chart, a compass, and a stopwatch, plus a pot of strong black coffee and silent appeals to Brendan and Elmo. And then, you're not even sure you hear it. But there it is, the sound of a buoy. And you know you made it home. That's proof that you're a competent sailor, or a lucky one. So you can use external rewards judiciously as affirmations of excellence, as confirmations of competence, recognition of achievement, or a validation of your subjective belief. But extrinsic rewards are dangerous in two closely related ways. The first danger is that they can come to supersede or replace intrinsic rewards. The second danger is that they can shape your behavior in subtle ways that are not always benevolent. And then every time your dog salivates, you'll have to ring a bell. Once upon a time, there was this funny little old guy who lived on the corner across from an elementary school. And every day after school, this gang of kids would stop by on their way home and taunt him, calling him names and so on, you know. One day he came out and caught him in the act. But before they could split the scene, he says, hey kids, wait, I got something for you. He gives them each $1. He says, if you come back tomorrow and do like you did today, call me names and like that, do a real good job, I'll give you each another $1. Well, so that's cool. Weird, but cool. They came back the next day, do their thing, gives them each $1. Thanks, kids, he says. That was great. If you come back tomorrow and do that, I'll give you each 50 cents. Well, 50 cents ain't a dollar, but what the hell? They come back the next day, do their thing, and he pays them each with 50 cents. He says, if you come back tomorrow, I'll give you each a quarter. Well, a quarter is better than nothing. They come back the next day, do the thing, and he gives them each a quarter. And he says, if you come back tomorrow and do a real good job, I'll give you each a penny. And they said, a penny? You cheap bastard, fuck you. And they never came back again. See, they traded their joy for money, and that is always a sucker deal. So that's the first danger. To look at the second danger, I want to talk about one of my heroes, Jane Elliott. On the day after Martin Luther King was murdered, she did an exercise with her third grade class that's become known as the blue eyes, brown eyes exercise. Her idea was to try to give small town white kids some notion of what it was like to be black, to be arbitrarily discriminated against because of some factor that was beyond your control, like your skin color, or in this case, your eye color. She figured that the way to understand another person was to understand their experience of the world, to put yourself in their place, get a handle on what they want, what they fear, and what they love, to walk a mile in their moccasins. In martial arts, we do this all the time. It's axiomatic that you cannot defeat an opponent whom you do not understand. So we try to put ourselves in our opponent's skin so we can defeat him. Maybe, if we spent a little more time there, we wouldn't have so many opponents. Anyway, the Cliff Notes version is this. She tells the blue-eyed kids that they're better than the brown-eyed kids. Smarter, better behaved, better looking. Gives the blue-eyed kids more attention, more praise, more petty privileges. The blue-eyed kids suddenly improve their grades, but they also become arrogant, bossy, and treat the brown-eyed kids like shit. The brown-eyed kids, their grades take a dive, and they become withdrawn and timid and subservient and resentful. Then after a time, Mrs. Elliott pulls a big switcheroo. She explains that it's actually the brown-eyed kids who are better, smarter, and so on, and not the blue-eyed kids. See, this was just a test for the brown-eyed kids. Well, surprise, surprise, surprise. These kids reverse roles. The brown-eyed kids suddenly improve their grades, but they also become arrogant, bossy, and treat the blue-eyed kids like shit. The blue-eyed kids, their grades take a dive, and they become withdrawn, timid, subservient, and resentful. Mrs. Elliott, God bless her, she subsequently went on to use this exercise to open a lot of eyes, and maybe some hearts too. But there's something that bothers me. I wonder if it bothers you. Here it is. Here it is. How easy it was for an authority figure to manipulate the kid's behavior just by controlling rewards and punishments. A pat on the back and a few extra minutes of recess was all it took to take these kids within a hop, skip, and a jump of the Hitler Youth. Now, I don't know about you, but that scares the fuck out of me. When external rewards become the source of your internal satisfaction, you'll do whatever you have to do, right or wrong, to obtain them. This is what happened to fencing competitions. People began receiving extrinsic rewards for fencing badly or for cheating. And people who fenced well stopped receiving rewards for fencing well. And before long, everyone who fenced well stopped participating in fencing competitions because the rewards no longer were an affirmation of fencing well. And the only ones who continued to participate were those who fenced badly. And over time, fencing badly became redefined as fencing well. And that's so sad it ought to be a country song. Now, speaking of music, that's a really good example of the intrinsic-extrinsic dialectic. And I can speak to this from some experience. I would submit that you play music for the inherent satisfaction and joy of playing music. It comes from playing good music and playing it just as well as you can. Sometimes, albeit rarely, you may get paid for playing music, but getting paid is not the reason you play. If it were, you'd only play when you get paid. But you play when you're all by yourself and there's no one to hear it but you. You play for family, you jam with friends. In fact, you spend a hell of a lot more time playing for free than you ever do playing for money. Now, if you were playing just for the money, you wouldn't care what music you played or how well you played it. I mean, as long as you played it well enough to get paid. Now, I've personally never done that, but I've seen it, and it wasn't pretty or listenable. Now, there were gigs that I took just because I had to pay the rent. And I've played some tunes I might not have played if I was playing just for myself, you know, like somebody's favorite song on their birthday. Whether I was getting paid $10 or $1,000 or not at all, I always loved it. And I always played it the best I could, because playing music is its own reward. You know what's funny about that is that I may actually have picked this up from my old man. Not a nice guy, and no love lost between us. But I remember him saying, what they pay you for the job says everything about them. How you do the job says everything about you. I just thought of that. Fuck. Look, I've played just for love, and I've played for love and money. But if I had to play just for the money, I'd rather drive a truck. Never let the lure of extrinsic rewards determine your values or define excellence or shape your behavior away from what is real and true, away from the thing you love. Extrinsic rewards are just symbols. Never let the symbol become more important than the thing it stands for. If you do, you'll be nothing but a puppet, and somebody else will always be pulling your strings.